We gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you. It's Tuesday night. It's just after 9 p.m. We're going a little bit more on time this week. And where else would you rather be as a Steelers fan? Just, less than 48 hours away from the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. And with me, as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich, Big Bro Scho. How are you doing this lovely evening?
What you gonna do when the Scho Bros run wild on you?
Yeah, I'm kind of frustrated again because for some reason, I don't know what it is with Tuesday nights that it hasn't been working for us to connect to Facebook. It's not really anything we're doing. It's kind of up to StreamYard. But if you're listening to this later because you're like, oh man, I missed it live on Facebook, that's why. You know what you can do to not miss us live? Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and have the notifications turned on. You'll never miss it there. If we can't go on YouTube, it's not going to go. It's just the stream won't happen at all. So that's one way that you can make sure that you could get it every time. But Rich, you've got to be really happy. I know you are a hunter and a fisherman, and you're all into, is it bow season? Is it trout season? Is it ice fishing season? Is it lake fishing season? You know what it is now? It's almost the end of mock draft season.
It's wabbit season.
One season you like to see end, right?
Well, it's wabbit season.
Duck season.
Wabbit. Yeah.
Duck season. Sorry.
Yeah, whatever. Actually, as you know, it's turkey season, to be honest.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I had turkey for dinner tonight, leftovers from Easter dinner on Sunday. But anyway, here we go. Steelers Chick 46 says, I almost missed it. Says it's gardening season. Okay.
Not yet. Not here.
Not where you are. Not where you are.
Where you are, maybe, but not where I'm at.
It's grass mowing season around here now. So
getting pretty close to that here.
But you know what else? What other season it is now? It was Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin season. Hearing from them at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Did I say that right? Yes. I almost messed up and thought I was supposed to say PPG. No, that's where the pens are. I almost screwed that one up pretty bad. Yes, we heard from at the league meetings, but this was them sitting there where they normally do their press conferences because it was today. Last year they did it on Monday. This year they did it on Tuesday. It was their pre-draft press conference. I did a breakdown. I did a recap like I normally did on Tomlin Tuesday. So we technically had a Tomlin Tuesday today. And I remember the last Tomlin Tuesday, the week after the Steelers wild card loss. And I said, you know what? It's going to be a long time until we have another one of these. It's going to be the draft. And we had it today. And not only that, do you know what that means? If you go from the Steelers' last game to the first day of training camp, we're over halfway there now. We're over halfway there from the last time the Steelers were on the field to when they report to Latrobe.
We're living on a prayer.
There we go. And not only that, we have the biggest event in the NFL. Jeff Hartman laid the case out. Do you believe that? Jeff laid the case out for that. This is the biggest event in the NFL because every team can be excited about it.
It's not a bad point.
Yeah.
Every fan base is involved in the draft.
Now, you don't get as many of the casual or non-real football fans that watch the Super Bowl just because it's the Super Bowl, but you get more people highly invested in this. I think is the best way to say it.
Not a bad way to say it. No.
Yeah. So now I know you might not have been able to catch much of what happened with the press conference today. I found it really interesting. Okay, well, first of all, Omar Khan opened it. We're not going to go into it too much because if you really want to hear everything, go back onto where all our audio podcasts are, anywhere you find them, and get my recap. What's up?
Man, you are struggling to spit words out tonight.
What word did I not get out this time?
No, you were just stumbling right there.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Rumbling,
well, you're breaking up with me a little bit.
No, we're not breaking up. You were rumbling,
Okay.
bumbling, stumbling.
So Omar Khan opened things up. I'm just saying I'm not going to go over everything because I already did that once. And he started off saying, we still only have 2 quarterbacks. We're going to go into training camp with 4. Everything's on the table to add the other 2. I'm just saying it now. But he also said something else in his opening statement that I was really surprised to hear him say. He's like, we've got 6 picks in this draft this year. Doesn't look like we have a whole lot of ammunition in order to move up, but we are more than happy to stay where we are or to even move back. That was pretty surprising to me that he actually said that. I was like,
and they'll end up moving up.
A little bit of a reaction from Mike Tomlin from it too, and it's like, I mean, that's what I've been saying. I'm like, they don't really. I mean, they need to gain another pick. Like I know I see people saying, "Oh, would the Steelers give up a first and a third?" You know, I think it was Corey Eckenroth dropped this in the Slack channel as a proposed trade. It was you gave up your first and your third to go back to 33 and get Cleveland's first round pick next year. First of all, Cleveland's not giving the Steelers their first round pick. They're just not going to work together like that. But that whole notion of, wow, that would look really good for next year. But that would, I mean, you're talking about you pick at 33 and then you're not picking until day 3? Yikes. So, yeah, you don't have a lot of picks. I know teams don't like to go a long time during the draft without picks. But Omar Khan did say something else later in the press conference because people asked him, you know, if you're interested in moving back, have you been laying any of that groundwork already? And he said that, you know, there's a bunch of us GMs that talk. He made it seem like it was everybody, might not be everyone, but it's probably close to all of them. And he said, so we have communication going on there, but at this time, you don't know if it's 100% truthful. I had to ask myself, did he say that at the beginning because he's not being 100% truthful? I don't think the Steelers should move up in this draft, but if they really weren't, I don't see that they would have said it like that. What do you think?
I think the Steelers make all their picks right where they're sitting this year.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
They did that last year.
I know.
Yeah. So that'll be really interesting to see. For the first time in a long time, the first time I ever remember, Coach Tomlin actually answered and spoke about a specific draft prospect during this time. He had a lot of questions about Shedeur Sanders and actually answered them. So that was kind of surprising. But it was interesting. Like I said, if you didn't catch it, go ahead and if you don't see the entire press conference, or you could always hit the recap that we have. I'm just going to leave it at there. We're going to get into this topic because we got to get going, right? Okay. This is what we've done now. I don't know if this is the 3rd or 4th year, however many years we've been doing this, that this last show before the draft, we focus on the Steelers' first round pick, assuming they're going to stay where they are, whether they may or they may not. And I go back over all of my articles, all of my Mock Draft Monday articles from the first one was on January 20th, and kind of look at how the narrative of what the Steelers could potentially do has changed. And my question is, are they even still getting it right? And that's why we call this the evolution of the Steelers 2025 draft. So I'm going to highlight the players that were mocked to the Steelers that I covered throughout this entire process. You ready for this, Rich?
Yep, sure.
Okay. So here we go. And if you're wondering, ever since I took over the Mock Draft Mondays, there's never been a year that the Steelers drafted a player that I hadn't covered. You think pre-draft visits are going to tell you something? This right here. This should tell you something. It's never missed. So there you go. So here you go. This is how it started. Any idea what position? Many in the national media, a lot of these came from like CBS Sports, Pro Football Network, places like that. Any idea what position they probably had the Steelers taking early on in the draft process in the first round?
Quarterback.
You think they did that right away?
Why not?
I'll be honest with you, they didn't touch quarterback until much later because of the whole they didn't sign Fields or Wilson.
I just figured they did that because they always do stupid stuff.
No, believe it or not, there wasn't quarterback. The one that they started off with is what was the biggest hole for the Steelers, even many believe it was last year. That they never truly addressed the wide receiver position.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, this is all pre-DK Metcalf.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, all it was all Steelers. I'll be honest with you, there were two. I ended up doing three in all. I covered three wide receivers. But I would tell you, up until the trade for DK Metcalf, I would say that at least probably 60% of mock drafts, if not more, I'm trying to be conservative, had the Steelers taking a wide receiver. And it was mainly one of several ones. The very first person that I covered was from Ohio State. Listen to me butcher the name, Emeka Egbuka. I'm pretty sure I was at least somewhat close. That was the first player. Now, a lot of people talk about how he's the perfect fit for the Steelers and everything and blah, blah, blah. There's still been some places that had him mocked to the Steelers. But honestly, he was the main consensus for the Steelers pre-DK Metcalf. I am looking here at the NFL mock draft database.com at where players were ranked as a consensus from various mock drafts since I think it's from January 16th on. He was guess where he was peaking and holding steady in January and into February was at 21. But he's really dropped off ever since then. And now it looks like they have him. A lot of places have him actually going 33rd, which would be the Cleveland Browns, where he's not even necessarily in the first round. He's sometimes at the very end of the first round. But that's one player. Honestly, if the Steelers were going to go wide receiver, I think that would maybe make some sense. But I was so tired of seeing wide receiver. Is there anything you want to say, or
no?
I don't want you to be like I don't have anything to say, but I don't want to just feel like I'm moving on without letting you say anything. Honestly, the next 2 weeks The next week I didn't want to do a wide receiver and it took me forever to find one that wasn't one, just because I didn't want to keep doing the same. I try not to do the same position 2 or 3 weeks in a row. So the very next week, I went cornerback. But believe it or not, it's a cornerback that isn't really getting a lot of hype right now. And that was from Notre Dame, cornerback Benjamin Morrison. There was a draft that had him go to the Steelers. Oh, we look good. Here's the thing. Ever since the middle of January, his ranking has dropped off to where they're looking at him more as like a mid-second round pick at this point. So, but that was another player that we did. The very next week was another cornerback, but this was when I went ahead and did a second corner because this was one I never thought I would see mocked to the Steelers again because it was too high. And that was for Michigan cornerback Will Johnson. And I think there's only one other cornerback that I looked at during the rest of the draft. But early on, it was either wide receiver or corner was everything that they had for the Steelers with a lot of stuff. And Will Johnson right now, his consensus ranking is like 11th. He's supposed to go as a consensus, he hasn't dropped out of the top 12 since this whole process began, or not since the process began, but since the middle of January. So I went ahead and did that one because I didn't think he would follow the Steelers. I'll be honest with you. If that name's available for the Steelers, they should run up and make that pick. Because he's a top 10 player that would be there.
Right. And actually, any of these guys, I don't know who else you're going to have come flying through here, but you would think if any of these guys are in that top 12 range and would happen to be there when the Steelers get there, yeah, you go get one of the, Wouldn't that be wonderful for the Steelers to get a guy that they totally didn't think would be there? To me, that's the drafts that are fun. That's why the draft 2 years ago was so fun, because they kept trading back and getting the guys we were thinking they were going to try to get with their original pick, and they were still getting them later kind of deal.
Well, I still thought it was fun trading up to get Broderick Jones, because I didn't think they were going to have a chance at him. I didn't think they were going to have a chance at Troy Fautanu last year. They did. So, I mean, both of the last two drafts for the Steelers, the player that they took with their second pick was a player I'd have been satisfied that if they took them in there with their first pick. So that's just me. So here's one that's, but some of these like the Morrison pick, that's falling off. That's if the Steelers did that would, to me, that's a thumbs down. That's not a pick that I want to see them do. Okay. Here's one that's real interesting because I don't know where he's going to go. It's so crazy. It's a number of these guys, especially early on, where I'm looking at the graph, and I got to make sure I'm doing this to the camera. Here's where they're ranked in the middle of January.
You're behind your microphone.
And here's where they are, and it's just a steady decline from January until now of where they're projected to go. Because the next one I did was wide receiver Luther Burden from Missouri, who was like a top 15 pick in January. And now it's, will he go at the end of the first round or not? He's been one of those guys that's been falling, but he was projected to the Steelers. I had to then, after 4 weeks of doing this, I'm like, the Steelers are going to take a defensive tackle. They really need to take a defensive tackle. I couldn't find anyone projecting the Steelers to take a defensive tackle early in this process. And I had to go searching for one, and I had to use a lesser-known place, I'm pretty sure, and it was a little bit older mock. You know what? I finally found one. First defensive tackle that I had that the Steelers took, this was on February 17th, mock draft Monday. This was our choice from a week ago with the Steelers' top pick after we traded back, and that was defensive lineman Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Now, he's been interesting because he's been up and down with where he's been projected. He's been inside the top 20. He was there end of January, early February. But the lowest he's ever made it was 27. He's been hanging out in the early to mid 20s throughout this entire process, meaning since January. The entire offseason, Steelers offseason, I could say. And right now they have him as the overall ranked 25th and the consensus 22nd. So right there about where the Steelers are picking. We traded back and took him because Pro Football Network is one of those places that has him a little bit lower. Honestly, in our FFSN mock draft, he was gone by the time the Steelers picked. He was already off the board. So he's massive, 330 pounds, something like that.
Yeah,
something
like
crazy. I mean, there are still teams putting him to the Steelers just this week. Some places have him going a little bit higher, going to the Bengals or even the Cardinals. But a lot of places also have him going to the Chargers at 22. So he's someone that, to me, he's a guy that's should be there if some of your other options aren't. So we've got the one more corner, one more wide receivers. And then, there is another corner thrown in later. Then the wide receivers are done. But remember, this was pre-free agency. And in February 24th, highlighted cornerback Jahdae Barron from Texas. I'll be honest with you. He was a guy with our mock draft last week that I was interested in taking um, when the Steelers picked. Do you remember that at all from last week?
Yes, I do.
How would you feel if the Steelers took a corner in the first round?
I'd be all right with it. It's based on what they already have going in the room. It then wouldn't seem like the sexy pick that people were looking for. But I could really, but you and I talked about last week how if you can get a guy that you're going to put on the opposite of Joey Porter Jr. and the two of them are going to lock it down for years to come, why would you not think about that?
Yeah, and here's what's interesting with him. Okay, he was sitting right at 30 through most of into the beginning part of February. Then he started to creep up a little bit, getting about 26. Then from the 1st of March to the 13th of March, he jumps from 26 to 17. Do you know what happened between the 1st of March and the 13th of March?
Well, I can think of, I don't know, like 2 to 12.
Huh?
What happened between the 1st of March and the 13th of March? 2 through 12.
Okay. And what happened during those days? Especially early on in those days.
I don't.
That was the combine.
Oh, okay.
He has rocketed up since the combine to where now he's a top 15 pick. With most places. It'll be interesting to see if that's where he really ends up. So that one would be interesting. You know what? Let's do one more because that gets us up to an interesting stopping point right before free agency.
Okay.
Because that changed everything. And that last one is the other wide receiver that they had going to the Steelers. This was the last one before the DK Metcalf trade, the last week. This was the 3rd of March, and that was wide receiver Matthew Golden from Texas. Now, honestly, out of all these wide receivers, I think right now he's the one that that's probably trending the highest. That there's a chance that that he could even go. There's a chance he could even be the first wide receiver off the board. I mean, some people think it's the Tet McMillan. But there's been a lot of talk about Matthew Golden from Texas. So he's a guy I'm trying to find out where he was trending because that's been trending up ever since January. He was barely a second round pick in the middle of January. And then by the middle of February, he was just inside the first round. And now he's been coming up and holding steady just inside the top 20. So he's someone who could be available for the Steelers. I just don't know if that's where they want to go in the first round without a second round pick. Is it safe to say that the DK Metcalf trade changed this a lot in two ways?
A lot, yes.
Well, I'm saying in 2 ways. One, the Steelers are good at wide receiver as long as they hold on to George Pickens for this year to go that high. And 2, they no longer have a second round pick, so you have to be a little bit more selective with round 1.
Yeah.
Would you call that fair?
Would be very fair because you would think they're not going to get DK Metcalf, give up a second, use a first on a receiver. Because basically what you're doing then is you're using a first and second on receivers. Yeah, that wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't. To say, okay, you're going to keep Pickens, you're going to lose your second round pick. I mean, because DK Metcalf is your second round pick. He is. Correct. So that means you'd be going wide receiver, and then something else in round 3. So, yeah, I think that changed a lot. I mean, there was a lot of people early on. Oh, you could – and honestly, the people that said it early on – I'm going to – before we take a break, I got to say this. There were a lot of people early on that said, you know what? This means the Steelers are going to trade George Pickens and take one of these other wide receivers. Do you want to know why? I think they already had it ingrained in their mind that the Steelers had a big chance of taking a wide receiver in the first round, that they didn't want to change their narrative. They didn't want to change their line of thinking. And that's honestly why I do these articles early on, but I don't pay attention that much to mock drafts until after at least the first week of free agency. It changes so much.
Yep.
Changes so much. And all this stuff and everything you're looking on and your mindset that you had for the Steelers could change in an instant. I used it as an example several years ago. I think it was 2020. Was it that, what tight ends would be available for the Steelers in the second round since they don't have a first-round pick? Oh, they need a tight end. Oh, they're so bad at tight end. Oh, what's going on with tight end? Then they signed Eric Ebron in free agency and never touched tight end. It changed. So same thing here. And I think for a while people were holding on to, but I really like this wide receiver to the Steelers. It's going to be available in the first round. And they didn't want to let that go until finally they just started to have to. And now it's going to head in the other direction, and we're going to get that when we come back. We'll hit that you'll see pretty soon how we got into that line of thinking. So if you're with us here live, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us here in audio form, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
All right, relax. Don't worry, Rich. We're almost done talking about mock drafts. You're like, I just got to get through this stupid show.
Yay.
You're so excited. So, all right. Well, it was that very next Monday was actually, I did this the first day of the legal tampering period is when I covered this one. And I did it because it was, at the time, it was crazy. And I'm like, and sometimes you need to find a crazy draft from a somewhat credible source in order to be able to do this many different players. So I found a crazy one. What's crazy about this crazy one is that I found it an awful lot the last 2 weeks I was trying to find stuff. And that was Shedeur Sanders at 21 for the Steelers. Needless to say, I would say that he's falling a little bit. Is this at least one you know a little bit about, Rich? Or not?
I don't know. I mean, what do you call a little bit about?
Like what the expectation is of maybe where Shedeur Sanders could go in this draft?
Do you want, what's kind of out there or what my opinion is?
Go with your opinion.
My opinion is Shedeur Sanders isn't really a first-round draft pick.
Okay.
He's an early second. He's a second rounder. He's just getting the extra hype because his name is Sanders and his dad was a really good player in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Does Shedeur Sanders have some talent? Yes, he does, but he's not. His game to me hasn't shown he's not coming out of college with the polish that you like on those first rounders, named Manning, Roethlisberger, Burrow, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, he reminds me more of, well, I'll just say it. If the Steelers took him in the 20s, I'd be worried we're looking at another Kenny Pickett situation where you kind of took a guy early and he could work out. But to me, that's not what you want to do with a first-round quarterback If you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, you really want to try to get somebody you're pretty sure about.
To me, he's the only quarterback that the Steelers could realistically, I'd say realistically, because Cam Ward's not going to be there, and I don't even know that he's that great, that could realistically, I could say, all right, if they took a 21, honestly. Anybody else, like I said a number of times, I feel that Jackson Dart has just filled the void of quarterbacks, and that's why people were talking about him in the first round. He's not. All these quarterbacks this year are moved up higher than what they probably should be because they just aren't there. What did I see today? Cam Ward would have been the 7th quarterback of last year's draft. Some expert claimed. I don't know if they're right. No one knows if they're right, but still, I don't even know how credible they were. But I did see that one. That was just that was one of the things. So I kind of hope he goes before the Steelers, so it's not something that clouds the issue. Obviously, if the Steelers take him, I'm going to hope that that they found the right guy and he does a great job. Anywhere else,
say this.
no. I'd love to see him go second to Cleveland. I would.
If the Steelers if he's there and the Steelers take him, I just really hope they've done their homework on it.
Yeah.
And they don't just take him because he's there. They really have a plan.
I mean, they brought him in and spent a bunch of time, and that's the only guy that Tomlin talked about. But then again, even Mike Tomlin talked about some of these things that we do because we need to, and some of these things that we do to get you all to see us do them so you can talk about things and not talk about other things that we don't want you talking about. Yep. So I don't know if it's real or not. Let's just say this. It's kind of – I feel about Shedeur Sanders how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. I wanted nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers, but the more that it seemed like it was a possibility, the more I found myself needing to warm to it in case it happened. Because I don't want to already not like someone when they join the Steelers. So I'm really, really hoping that the Pittsburgh Steelers are not drafting a quarterback with their first-round pick. I really am.
Yeah, I really hope they're not. But if they decide and they do,
that's the only one that I would be like, well, there's a chance. Honestly, the other guys in round one, no. And we'll get to another one here in a little bit. So don't want to spend too much time on this. Then we saw some. Oh, and just so you know, Sanders, he was the consensus number 2 for a while. Then he held it the consensus number 4 for like 2.5 months. Now he's dropped to the consensus 9th over the course of April. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. But if you move on to the first Monday after free agency, guess what the knee-jerk reaction was there? The Steelers didn't sign Najee Harris. They're going to have to draft a first-round running back. The only running back that I had that highlighted this whole time, that would be running back Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. Never highlighted, was it Ashton Genty? Because I never found a mock where he dropped to the Steelers. So to me, if he dropped, that would be one that would be worth it. I talked about running back a little bit. I said, I think that I would say with running back, there's one guy in tier run. I say run, tier 1. One running back in tier 1. And that's Genty. 2 in tier 2, where Hampton is one of them, and the other one is Henderson. And then a ton of guys that I would just put together in tier 3. And to me, if you can get a tier 3 guy in round 3, then you don't take a tier 2 guy in round 1. No, I would take a tier 1 guy in round 1 because that's 2 tiers higher. But I wouldn't take a tier 2 guy. Simply, honestly, the biggest thing I would say while not having Omarion Hampton to go to the Steelers, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a great fit. Oh, he'd be a great Steeler and a lot of stuff. I'm not saying that. It's nothing against the player. I'm just saying, with this being an deep, extremely deep running back class, I don't see why you have to take one in the first round unless it's game changing. Some people might say Hampton. He's been on the rise for a long time. He's consensus. Honestly, he's like the consensus. He's ranked 22nd, consensus 20th. So he'd be right where the Steelers are picking, right around there. So those are just. I would much rather wait for running back. That's just me. How about you?
I agree. I'm okay. Jalen Warren signed his tender.
Yep. And
Not
speaking of
worth-
Jalen,
Not worth going number one.
huh?
Not worth going in the first round.
Yeah. The next player. Oh shoot, I can't find him. The next player that I highlighted. This is getting into the end of March. I did this one just because I'm like, really. This is one that would bother me. It's outside linebacker Jalen Walker from Georgia. Now, I'll tell you this. He's a good player. He should be gone way before the Steelers pick, probably. I know some people are like, well, is he really the right fit for everything for an NFL team? I don't know. But with him, he's like ranked in the top 10. So if he fell to 21, to me, that's a scenario where I wouldn't want the Steelers to take an outside linebacker because they kind of got a logjam there right now anyway. And I mean, there was someone that commented on the article says, oh, he'd be a great rotational backup for TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. And I'm like, you want to use your first round pick for a rotational backup player?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no.
I mean, I get it if that's a plan for a year, maybe two, but I mean, if you make this pick, you're basically, I mean, you're almost saying we're not going to bring back TJ Watt. I don't think that's the case. To me, this is the scenario. If a Jalen Walker falls and is available at pick 21, that's the scenario for the Steelers to trade back with someone who would be excited to come up and grab Jalen Walker. That would be the best scenario for the Steelers, for somebody to fall at a position that the Steelers don't need in order for someone to actually then be willing to come up and get him because they didn't think they could. So, yeah. So you and I are kind of on the same boat there?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I did highlight one more cornerback, and I had to do this one because I was getting all the same names. I had a few weeks there where it was just all the same names, no matter where I looked. This one was a cornerback that I don't think. I'm really hoping that the Steelers don't go in this direction. This is one of those cornerbacks that made a huge jump after the combine. Like borderline second to third round pick to then all of a sudden was a borderline second to first round pick. This was cornerback Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. Some people are like, oh yeah, he tested so great and everything. Just because you test great doesn't mean that you're going to be a superstar in the NFL. Bud Dupree from Kentucky tested well with the combine, and part of the reason why he started to move up boards and everything, and the Steelers then ended up taking him because it thought he was going to go higher. But just because you test well doesn't mean that Bud Dupree is still a pretty good NFL player, but he wasn't game-changing player like you would really like to grab in the first round that you're hoping to get. Doesn't mean you're not always going to do that, but it's still your hope. So that was one I thought was interesting. We got 3 more to do, and we're going to do them pretty quick. Quarterback Jackson Dart from Mississippi.
Veto.
Yep. Here you go. This was the next to last one. Defensive tackle Derek Harmon from Oregon. I'm telling you, if he's there, when the Steelers pick, I don't think they trade back. I think they take him. He was not there in our mock draft.
All I know is this: that's a position that I would expect the Steelers to draft. That's all. I don't know the guy, and you're sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, dude, you're asking me. I have no idea.
No, I'm looking at you. I'm trying to read stuff about him on my screen.
So,
I haven't looked at you for a long time. Yeah.
But you're kind of sitting there staring and pausing. I'm like, dude, if you're wanting me to say something, you're.
I was trying to get the page to load because, like I said, I had all this stuff loaded up, and then my computer shut down on me, which was dumb. Anyway, he's like ranked 22nd or 23rd, but right now the popular place for him to land is Cincinnati at 17. If he gets past Cincinnati at 17, I think the Steelers could get him. Some people talk about, well, the Steelers trade above Cincinnati to get him. I don't know that they have the ammo to do that, and it's a deeper class. But that's a pick I would love to see. Then the very last week that I did, this was the first time I actually had two really good choices for the last week of Mock Draft Monday and wasn't sure which one to do. I could have done defensive tackle Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, but I had just done a defensive tackle, so I didn't, because this is another sleeper pick that I have for the Steelers in the first round, and that is from South Carolina, safety Nick, I can't say it, Emenwari, I think is the right way to say it. That was the last player that I had highlighted for the Steelers, who I think would be I think it would be a value pick if they got him there. So here, this is interesting. Tilt says, heard medical report red flags coming out on Harmon. I have not heard a single thing about that. I don't know where you got that. I'd love to know where you heard that, because all the draft people that I know and talk to, like I know, like Roy Countryman, he is up on this stuff, and he's all on Derek Harmon. So if you look at it, I usually total these up, and I forgot to. There were, what was it? 3 cornerbacks. Sorry, scratch that. 4 cornerbacks, 3 wide receivers, only 2 defensive tackles, but almost a third, 1 outside linebacker, 1 running back, 2 quarterbacks, and a safety. These things changed a lot from the beginning to the end. Lots of corners and wide receivers early, lots of quarterbacks and other things later. So I'm going to say, Rich, do you think the Steelers' first round draft pick falls in there of one of the players I highlighted?
See, when you play this game with me, it's like, I'm more one that likes to play percentages. I'd say I'd go a little less than some years. I'd go at about 60% maybe that it's in there. And partly because we ended up with so many wide receivers in there, and I'm pretty sure we're not going there.
Yeah.
I think the chance to go in quarterback are fairly low. So in terms of who you had out there, I really like the defensive lineman the best.
And it's interesting. I just looked up Derek Harmon, and it's been within the last day that things have come up, and that's probably why, if something happened, I hadn't heard from any of these people. That's coming up with some medical concerns, which I was surprised. I hadn't seen it on X at all. That there might be some medical concerns.
All right, so Afton's typing's terrible on this one, but I got to bring it up anyway because I love it. I love this. She said, what are Harbin's issues? Because the only rookie we had that didn't get hurt last year was the one who tumbled down the board because of the bad knees. Due to the knee.
Yeah, which is funny, which in my article tomorrow highlighting the Steelers' last 3 drafts and who's still with the team. You know, I did my series of whatever happened to the whatever draft class. I always put the last 3 draft classes together because they're on rookie deals and there's a lot of them still there. And I noted that the only player last year who did not miss a game due to injury was Peyton Wilson, the player who tumbled because of all the injury concerns. Now, it's just 1 year. That narrative can change. We know.
Of course it
but
can.
It's crazy that's what it is now. Here's the other thing that's crazy. Do you want to know what? Every pick by Omar Khan is still with the Steelers.
Interesting.
Every player from the last 2 years is still with the Steelers. Only 2 from the last 3 years are gone, and they both played the same position. Quarterback. Everyone else is still with the Steelers.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy. So, all right, we're running late again, but we're going to come back for the big question there. To me, the Walter Nolan is another one that I think is a possibility that I didn't have here that I almost did the last week of this. But you're right. I would say I'd be shocked if the Steelers took any of the first 4 names that I had. I mean, Will Johnson would be good, but he's not going to drop. Kenneth Grant is, if it's not Harmon, it's Grant for me. Most likely. John A. Barron is a cornerback. I know Coach KT Smith likes him. He's about the only corner that I would be, that's not the worst thing in the world if they took him. Quarterback, I'm really not wanting. Running back, if it's not the top guy, I'm not really interested in. I would be fine if they took the safety. Believe it or not, some people are like, what? I'm like, yeah, I would be fine if they took the safety. But I also think, my goodness, the Steelers have not drafted a defensive player in the first round of the draft since they traded up for Devin Bush. Maybe it's because they traded up for Devin Bush and it didn't work out. That's why. They had done a defense a lot. They need to start getting it mixed up a little bit. So, okay. All right. So, Kathy asked this. Could you refresh your list, Dave? So I'm going to say it one more time just to close it out, just to read through the names. Then we're going to do 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk, and then we'll come back for the big question about it. So now I'm going to refresh that list after the 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk, so you don't have to remember it during that time. And I wasn't sure whose week it was, but I'm actually stealing this one this week because I have one that I want to talk about. And that is on Saturday night, getting ready for Easter and everything. I recorded my unpopular opinion podcast. And when I was done, I got it all produced and I kept noticing my lights were flickering. I'm like, what's going on? I didn't realize it because I'm here in the basement, had my headphones on. We had a massive storm rolling through. It wasn't a tornado, but it was a microburst. Came through. It had gone through up close to you, but it missed you just to the north, didn't it?
Yeah, it missed just to the north. Actually, we had people within just 5 or 6 miles that were out of power for 2 days. We saw places up here out of power.
I was out of power until 1:18 a.m. Sunday morning. Not very long. I know Brian Anthony Davis got power back Sunday afternoon. And I hope he doesn't mind me putting this out there. I don't think he said it yet in a podcast, but poor Jefferson Hartman still doesn't have power. So we're trying to figure out what we can do with Jeff for the draft if he still doesn't have it. He's got, not only does he not have power, he's got trees down on power lines in his backyard that they have not got to yet. His neighborhood was the worst hit that was hit. It was really bad. So, but it was really interesting.
That still having trees on lines has been some of the issue up here. There were just so many trees came down.
Yeah. So that, I stopped here, went upstairs. My youngest was already asleep. My oldest two, they were hanging out with us, just use our lights, just sitting back, realizing how quiet things are when there's not all the electronics and humming and everything. And just kind of was enjoying it a little bit, just sitting in the dark. But I was just worried and hoping it didn't last forever. But my question is, do you have any interesting blackout stories of times where you've lost power and everything and kind of how you handled it?
All right, so this is a lost power thing. This isn't a Brian Anthony Davis, Mr. 2 a.m. kind of story, right?
No, no, I'm not talking about, like I actually said this. I'm like, oh my goodness, the hospital is going to be overloaded in the maternity ward in the middle of January. not those kind of stories. So,
first one comes to mind for me is when we were living in Binghamton, we were hit with that big Northeast blackout that lasted for us in Binghamton. I think it was about a day and a half. It was a little longer than that in some spots. We had fun because there were a lot of folks around that I worked with. We were. Yeah.
Mike says every time I'm blacked out, I can't remember what happened. We're talking about power outages.
Well, that's what I meant when I was talking about Mr. the Mr. 2
no,
a.m. story. It was
Gotcha.
Yeah, that kind of blackout. So, but like I was saying, so for me, it was when we were up in Binghamton. This would have been what, 2004 or 5? Which one of those two summers? Actually, I guess it would have been summer of 2005, maybe, when that Northeast blackout hit, and we were out of power. But it was cool because I said, some of my other coworkers being around. It was like, well, what are we going to do for meals? Well, we all decided we'd go outside and have cookouts. So we did a bunch of cooking out and hanging outside and played, we had tennis courts near us and basketball courts and stuff like that. So it was just a lot of us outside just hanging out. And of course, then all of our campus police officers were coming out to hang out with us. Why? Because we were some of the few folks that were on campus, and they had the excuse of, checking up on the folks that were around campus during the blackout. And so that was kind of fun too.
Gotcha. I have two. Okay. I'm trying to
I wonder if one of them is going to be one that.
Yes, it is. So hold on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The first one was I'm trying to find the year, because I'm pretty sure it was Super Bowl 52. Eagles, Patriots. Our parents are here with me. I'm getting all my food ready. I got everything good to go. About ready to put one last thing in the oven. Boom. Lose power.
Nice.
My next door neighbor is a big Eagles fan. And it's just before the Super Bowl and the power goes out. So I called my old college roommate, who just so happens that his brother is married to our sister, who lives on the other side of town. Actually, he doesn't live in the same place now that he did then. And I'm like, what do you guys do over the Super Bowl? Oh, we didn't have anything. I'm like, I got all this food that I need to finish cooking, and our power went out. And they're like, we don't have any food. Bring it over. So we had to go over and watch the first half of the Super Bowl at Little Nard's house, because we didn't have power during the Super Bowl. So that was one. And then the other one was my senior year of college.
I knew that was coming because I thought
on Labor Day.
Oh,
They did
yes.
a scheduled blackout. They scheduled it. And I'm like, you've got the whole college campus, and if they're going to cut the power, it was like at noon. Might have been 11, something like that. You remember?
It wasn't just the campus, dude. That was a power line fix.
Yeah. So I mean,
it was a power line upgrade for the entire region. So
yeah. So I mean, it was more than the campus. Yeah. But the whole campus was out.
Yeah.
So going to the cafeteria was interesting. I had just hanging out in the dorm room, like nothing to do, because classes started the next day, didn't they? Or did they start on Wednesday? I can't remember. But we were there for it. But that was also our fantasy football draft that we would do in person, write the names on it, put it on the wall in one of the lobbies. So we were in the basement lobby of
basement lounge.
Yeah, the lounge. Sorry, the lounge, the basement lounge of one of the halls. It was your hall. Was it your? Was it? No, because it was.
No, we were in
Al-
Sours.
We were in
We
Sours.
were in Sours.
Okay. I know it was one of those two that were right next to each other. So we were down there, and it was tough enough to get a hold of everybody because we didn't have cell phones, we just all had regular phones. And the only way, and I had a cordless phone, so it didn't work because of the power. So I had to try to find the office phone and things like that to get all. We still doing this, yeah. Everyone brought their magazines because no one had internet to look it up there to do your draft. This was 1999. I mean, come on, this is how you did it. And we all had our flashlights and everything, and we're doing. How many was it? The middle of the second round? Is that when the power came back on?
Third round.
It was somewhere around there. But that one was interesting, and that one was longer. I've never been without power for an extended period of time.
Yes, you have. You just don't remember it.
As a kid.
Yeah.
How would I know? We heated our house with a fire with the wood stove in the living room. We had a gas range, and we only had 4 TV channels, so it's not like we had to watch TV very much. Probably didn't even realize it.
And we're talking, you were probably only 4 years old. We had a couple times where we had, back when you were little, we had a couple ice storms where we had power out for multiple days.
Yep. So, all right. So that was a whole lot of fun. Let's get to the big question. Okay. Before I do, Afton asked for it. You asked, I will deliver. You ready? Here we go. The rundown of Mock Draft Monday players that were highlighted to look at here to know if just to have some ideas of how things were trending towards the Steelers then. It was wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, cornerback Benjamin Morrison, cornerback Will Johnson, wide receiver Luther Burden III, defensive tackle Kenneth Grant, cornerback Jahdae Barron, wide receiver Matthew Golden, quarterback Shadur Sanders, running back Amarian Hampton, outside linebacker Jalen Walker, cornerback Maxwell Hairston, quarterback Jackson Dart, defensive tackle Derek Harmon, and safety Nick Emenwari. I think I got close to that. Whether it's one of those players or not, here you go. Last big question before the draft, Rich. And you probably going to be like, I have no idea. And that is, who are the Steelers taking with their first pick in the draft this 2 days from now?
Oh, they're taking Kenneth Grant because we got it right.
Okay. Now remember, people, don't put this out there yet. I'm going to put it out there for you all to answer. And I will bring them all up and read them. That's been my pick for a very long time. Now I feel a little bit better about it because I was going to say if you took Grant, then I'd take Harmon. But now people are talking about the medicals. My thing is there medicals, or is this another one of those things where you want other teams to think that there's medicals? People were saying, "Oh, that's how it was with." No, that was Fahatanu last year. There was a question a couple days before the draft about medicals with him. Now, the fact that he only played one game as a rookie because he got hurt doesn't really sound very good then. But he was another one. And I'm like, is this once again somebody that the Steelers want? They're going to put something out there about the medicals. And then all of a sudden people might not be they might be available for the Steelers. I don't know. So I'm still going to stick with it. I'll go, since you took Kenneth Grant, I'll go Derek Harmon. And now I am putting it out there for people to put in the live chat because some of you jumped the gun.
Okay, but
there we go.
But Sherry might have had an excuse because I think Facebook just came up.
Oh, there we go. Did it? Oh, did it finally connect? I hadn't been looking. Oh, poor Sherry. Poor Sherry. She didn't know. So Sherry, she'll put it in there again. If not, I'll come back.
Of course she will.
Yeah, because she's like that. It's funny because Mike says he doesn't trust Michigan players, but he's saying Grant. Ever since he heard about Harmon's medicals like 10 minutes ago. Okay. Afton Ford says Grant. Kathy Ford says Grant.
Is
It must have just connected to Facebook because one of my messages came up as an error. Mike says Grant Harmon, LOL.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Dennis Pavlak. I like how he says it. Nick E. And I can't say Edmundwari. I think I might be, by the time I get it, I might actually have it right or close.
And he'll be on another team, and you'll never want to say his name, so that'll be funny.
Yeah, because Mike did say he wants Harmon, but they probably take Garrett. Reginald Rivers still says Harmon. And notice I said with their first pick, I didn't even say where that was going to happen. So and here I'm going to go back to bring up Sherry's just because who knows if it's working.
There, she just redid it.
She just did. There we go. Harmon. Okay. Hey, I didn't know I false started. Just got there.
See, told you that's why I just caught that happened.
Sorry about that, Sherry. Once again,
Sherry, we don't know what's been going on between communication issue between StreamYard and Facebook has been killing us.
And I know, who was it that I can't remember because it's way too far back, hopped in and said, it's not working on Facebook, but I don't like all the comments on YouTube. Yeah. They like the way it is on Facebook a little bit better, which, hey, I get it when it's there. But like I said, we'll never miss it on YouTube. So my thing is, how important do you think the first round draft pick is this year with no second round pick?
Important with who they take isn't to me as big a deal as don't miss.
Yeah.
Because typically you're figuring you've got your first two picks. If one is ho-hum and the other one, if your first round guys up being okay but not flashy, and your second round pick kind of overperforms, you're okay, but with no second round pick, you really want to make sure you get it right with the first.
Yeah. That's kind of how I was feeling looking back in past drafts when it came to 2019. Steelers traded up, gave up their second round draft pick, and took Devin Bush. Losing that second round draft pick, and they lost their third the next year. But losing that second round draft pick means that you've got to hit with that first pick so much more.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So that's why it's like, yeah, look at what the Steelers have done in the second round. Last year was Zach Frazier. The year before was Joey Porter and Keanu Benton. George Pickens in 2022, Pat Freiermuth in 2021, although they could have had Creed Humphrey, which would have been even better, but I still like Muth. Okay. Chase Claypool in 2020, but that was their first pick. So that one was kind of weird. Okay. They didn't have one in 2019. Then you get into like James Washington, in the second round. If you're just missing out on a James Washington, then it's like, yeah, I'd definitely take DK Metcalf over James Washington. But the year before was Juju in the second round. So but in the last few years, the Steelers have done really well in the second round. So to not have one is interesting. I think it makes that first round pick important, but honestly, it makes what they do in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 really important as well. So
yeah, will this be another draft where we see missing the second round one will be okay because Omar, gets to cooking again in those later rounds like we feel he's done the past couple years. We'll see.
And as we said at the beginning, John Malesko says DK Metcalf will perform, so our second round pick is a hit. We said that at the beginning of the show. Did. So that is one thing you've got to remember that when the Steelers aren't picking early in day 2. So there is that. You've just got to put it all into perspective. But as Omar Khan said today, he's like, we do not regret having DK Metcalf and not having a second round pick because of him. It's great. But personally, I'd like to have 50 picks in the draft. So I think a couple years ago, Matty P almost got there with all the trade backs. He took players, if you remember that, which I thought was funny. But make sure you're checking out. I don't know if we're going to have a Steel City Insider tomorrow or not. I haven't heard yet. If not, we have something else special planned there. If not, we will be giving you the normal stuff up until midday on Thursday, and then it all changes because Thursday night we're going to be on here live. Woo! During the draft. All right, we're going to be on here live. Then I'll be doing, like the audio only breaking news podcast. So if you're listening to this in audio only form, make sure you have your notifications on for those. We'll be having like roundtable stuff, like a summary show at the end of stuff, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of coverage at steelcreennetwork.com. This is a big one. Be ready for it. Be ready for it. And remember, I keep giving the disclaimer every time I say it. When we're live on YouTube, we don't wait for the picks to show up on TV. As soon as we have them from a reliable source, we say them. So if you want to listen to us in your headphones at a party and want to make some wagers on who somebody's taking, you could possibly be able to do that because we'd be there for you for that.
That's right.
So, but we will be live streaming not just Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So at any point during the draft. So it should be lots of fun. Rich, what do you have to say here to close us out tonight?
Well, first, I just want to kind of bring up to folks that remember as we're going through the draft that, I think I'll just put a Mike Tomlin quote in here. So when the Steelers don't draft the guy you want them to, just remember.
We're not urinating on the fire, man.
We're not.
Okay. Yeah. It's just, it'll be okay. And we'll get to it.
Wait, if they do draft who you want, you can say,
Good. I feel so good at dance.
That's right. And really just, for me, the excitement isn't even just the draft. Like I said, I hate mock drafts. I don't follow a lot of this stuff going into this, partly because I'm not wanting to spend a whole lot of time on guys that aren't going to be Steelers.
yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Now, for me, my excitement comes next week when we're sitting back here and the draft is all finished and you and I are breaking down who it is that the Steelers drafted, why we think they're a good fit, what we think they bring to the team, how they're going to, fit in as Steelers. To me, that's when the fun begins. So, I'll be doing my knee-jerk reaction stuff during the draft. What happens, those picks come in, and I have to quickly do some research on the guys because I don't know a ton about them going in. But I always get excited when they pick, even though I don't always know a whole lot about these guys. I get excited. Why? Because they're now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Like I remember doing that when we drafted Alex Highsmith. Like I knew, believe it or not, he's somebody I knew just a tiny little bit about, and then went quick research on it and just totally was all in on that pick.
Yep.
So that's the kind of stuff I get excited about. But really, for me, this is a transition point in the off season. First we have the dead time, then you have the free agent time, now we have the draft time, then we get the OTAs and minicamp time, then we get training camp time, then we're back into season. It's that next checkpoint, and we are right here on that next checkpoint on the list. Hope you all can join us some maybe on this Thursday night. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.